now joined by First Things First co-host Chris Broussard. Chris, what does this tell you? What's the latest here?
Well, look, Jen, as a fan and for selfish reasons, I would love for Brooklyn and Philadelphia to swap Kyrie Irving for Ben Simmons. And I throw in Seth Curry from Philly to make that deal work financially. But it would be awesome. I think it would make Brooklyn virtually unbeatable. And on paper, it would make Philadelphia vastly improved. The problem is we all know how unreliable Kyrie Irving is. He's unpredictable and he's high maintenance. And because of those reasons, I got to be honest, I don't blame Philadelphia for having no interest in Kyrie. Let me count the ways. Number one, it is possible that if he got traded to the Sixers, he might retire. He loves being at home in New Jersey. He lives like 10 minutes from me max, and he loves this area, so he's at home. He might retire if he got traded. Number two, even Kyrie's unreliable, even if vaccination status isn't a question mark, right? Even if that's not a factor, will he just take off for a week or two because there might be some crisis in the country? Remember, he did that a couple years ago, January 6th, with the invasion of the Capitol. He just took off. Maybe he needs a mental health day or week. You never know with Kyrie. And then thirdly, he's injury prone. He hasn't played 70 games in his last 4 seasons, and 4 different seasons in the playoffs, he's been injured at critical moments. All right, LeBron might have another title in 2015 had Kyrie not gotten hurt in the finals. And then in 2018, his first year in Boston, he's out for the entire postseason. 2020, his first year in Brooklyn, he's out for the entire postseason. Last year, he gets hurt and misses the last 3 games. That's not his fault. Anybody can get injured, but he obviously is injury prone. So he missed the last 3 games against Milwaukee last year. So all of those reasons, on top of that, even though he's the strongest personality in Brooklyn, he's not a leader. All right. And that's why when Kyrie's the best player on the team and the undisputed leader, they struggle. We saw it in Boston. They were better without him, went to the Eastern Conference Finals without him. He comes back and they go out in the second round in 5 games. Brooklyn, his first year there, when KD's out, they played better, won more games without him. So Kyrie in Brooklyn, it was good because he's the 3rd best player. And even though he's a strong personality, they still have 2 superstars who are better than him. So it can work there. But in Philadelphia, even though Embiid would be the best player, Kyrie's got the ball in his hands most of the time, and he's probably a stronger personality even than Embiid. So, and finally, guys, Kyrie can be a free agent after this season. So if he could go to Philadelphia, not be happy, and then walk. Ben Simmons has 4 years left on his deal. He is a valuable trade asset for the Philadelphia 76ers. So they want to get not only a top player who can help them this year, but a top player that's locked up for at least a few years if they replace him with Ben Simmons, or replace Ben Simmons with him. So for all those reasons, I just can't see. I hate to say it because I'd love to see the trade made. But if I'm a GM, I can't risk trading for Kyrie Irving. The only team that might do it would be maybe in Oklahoma City, which takes on big contracts. We saw him trade for Chris Paul. You know, they'll take on a big contract, use it as a trade asset or something like that. But as great as Kyrie is, where's he a fit? He's just unreliable. I know this, lastly, in 2020 when he was a free agent with Durant, there were teams that would not have taken Kyrie by himself. They would have taken him to get Kevin Durant and those two as a duo, but by themselves, they didn't want Kyrie because of all the reasons that I mentioned.
All the reasons that we're seeing currently. And you're absolutely right. Whatever the term you want to use, Chris, be it moody, be it mercurial, be it aloof, whatever the case may be, Kyrie is all of those. So I think we might need to give LeBron a little bit more kudos because he was able to make it work for 3 years. And they got the 2 NBA finals and they won one. So give LeBron kudos for having to deal with that because seemingly no one else can.
I co-sign that.
And Chris, it was reported, Woj reported that ownership and Sean Marks consulted Kevin Durant and James Harden. It's hard for me to believe that they made a decision about Kyrie moving in this direction without the blessings of James Harden and Kevin Durant. Even friends get tired of other friends' bullshit. And that's what it seems to me. Bro, we made sacrifices. Everybody got to make a sacrifice. James Harden said it. We can win a lot if we do things the right way. Kevin Durant just want to hoop. He ain't trying to answer questions after every game about Kyrie's vaccination status. What, would you have won this game if you had Kyrie? Do you think you could win a championship without Kyrie? Kyrie. And Kevin Durant's like, Kyrie's not here. And they finally came to the decision, well, Kyrie's not going to be here until he can be a full-time participant. We don't do the part-time. And I give the Nets credit because they're going to pay his salary for the games that he's not going to be playing at all. So a road game, they're going to pay his salary. It makes no sense to me that Kyrie now all of a sudden he's shifted his stance. It's not that he's anti-vaccine. It's the fact that, all of a sudden I'm the people's champ for people that's losing their job because of the vaccine mandate. Man, nobody buying that, Kyrie. And for me, I agree with you. I think some one of these teams that needs to try to fill an arena that's not going to be in a championship caliber team, they'll be willing to trade for Kyrie. But if I'm a championship caliber team and I need to depend on something, skip how many times, man, he was a good worker. If he was just dependable, man, he could not joke. No, he could work on a car, but man, ain't no telling when he gonna show up or when he gonna have your thing. That's Kyrie.
Yep.
If he was just dependable, he's not. He's not dependable and he's injury prone.
Yep.
And with those mood swings, nah, I'm good.
I think just about the rest of the league is about to be good on Kyrie, which is going to be bad for Kyrie. And by the way, Chris Broussard, you laid it out beautifully and powerfully why he's getting close to being untradeable. He's getting close. He's getting close to finding himself on the outside looking in. Because as Shannon Sharpe has told me from the start, the NFL, the NBA, MLB, they will move on.
Yes.
At some point, you're not indispensable anymore. He has been up to this point, but now he's going on 30 years of age in March. And I think the Nets finally sat back yesterday and said, well, wait a second. Do we really, really need him? Obviously, they're better with him, obviously, because they were solid favorites without him. But if you take him out of the equation, which they just did, are they still favorites? Maybe slight favorites?
Sure,
because I'm looking at this roster. Yeah, look at this. Obviously, you start with KD. I think he's the best player on the planet. And the fit with James last year was sensational because James said, I'll be the point guard. And Kyrie, to his credit, said, you be the point guard. And it worked at the highest level. Well, all of a sudden, I say, well, you added Patty Mills and LaMarcus Aldridge came back.
Blake came back.
Millsap is with you now to give you some quality veteran depth. And James Johnson came and he gives you some veteran toughness. And Blake's still there, and Bruce Brown is still there, and Joe Harris is still there. And listen, Nicholas Claxton last year, every time I saw him, remember he was the first pick in the second round. He's 6'11". He was causing some problems. So I'm looking at that roster saying, well, time out. It's still pretty good. It's not as good, but it's pretty good without him. So they're just saying, we're done with you unless you do want to get vaccinated and come do what all the rest of us are doing to try to protect the product that is the National Basketball Association. So I'm with Chris. As a basketball fan, would I love to see this trade just basketball for basketball? It's beautiful. It's like, thank you, God, for both teams, until you start thinking about the intangibles in the trade, which are all on Kyrie's side, and they're all wrong.
And both of you guys are right, because what we're starting to find out, Chris, is that it's always something. Remember when he was in Cleveland, it was like, well, LeBron was trying to do this, and LeBron was so overbearing, and Kyrie just wanted to get out from up under that. And then he goes to Boston. And then whatever, I don't know what transpired, but it was something in Boston. And now he's at Brooklyn. In an ideal situation, you can't get a utopia that's better than
Cannot.
this. You got the best player, and James Harden's the top 5, top 6 player. And you got that and paired with Kyrie, who's a top 10, 11, 12 player.
Yep.
So you got an ideal situation.
And by the way, this is the franchise you grew up loving in your home area, right?
Yep.
And for whatever reason, Chris, now it's all. So in other words, teams are starting to say, "Man, it's always something."
Yeah,
At some point in time, the common denominator, Cleveland, now Boston, and now the Nets. The common denominator in all 3 situations is Kyrie.
Yep. And look, for all of Ben Simmons' faults, I think he has high character. I think they trust him from night to night to show up and play.
Yeah.
Right?
So you mean to tell me he ain't gonna call and say, "I ain't gonna be able to come tonight"? Hey, Chris, I mean, can you do that to the job?
No, no question.
You just show. You call. You got a Monday show. You call Wednesday. Hey, Nick, I'm sorry, man. I ain't gonna be able to make it this week, even though I done missed 2 days. But I will get back at some point in time. Who does that? Let that sink in for a second, Skip. You take off and you don't even tell your bosses you leaving.
I got it. You do it because you can get away with it.
Exactly.
And I think they just called his hand and his bluff and said, nope, you can't do it anymore.
I think Kevin Durant and James Harden tired of his BS too.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, look,
Interesting.
I agree with you, Skip. I think they're still the favorites without him.
Yeah.
I think where they could miss him is in the clutch.
Sure.
Right? I think
got it.
Harden likes having Durant and Kyrie in the clutch where he doesn't have to worry about having a huge game because those two can. So that might be where they miss him.
It's a good point. Like, it'll be the games where it's down to the wire, and what if he was a part of this one?
But what if that game is in the clutches in Brooklyn?
Weight falls.
Oh, he won't be there.
I don't know how this plays out. Chris, thanks for weighing in today. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.